The 20th death anniversary of Tupac is coming tomorrow. Just one more day until his 20th death anniversary. And people still believe he and many others are still around. People actually think he faked his death to get away from the spotlight. People saying things like, oh, Tupac is still alive. He's in Cuba. He's on the island with Biggie, Elvis, Michael Jackson, John Lennon, etc. Claiming in the next 20 years after his death, Tupac would return this year in 2016. Okay, well, we'll see on September 13th online and on television that Tupac has returned. Do I think he's still living? He's still alive through his music and spiritually, but I'm afraid he's not physically here anymore. I think the reason why people think he and many others are still alive is due to they can't accept the fact that they're gone too soon. They'll believe all the rumors stating they faked their deaths to get away from the spotlight, also find their deaths suspicious. Or some people may be fooling around joking just for good laughs. People have said Tupac is coming back in the next 20 years. If Tupac was still alive, it would be all over the internet, all over the news, on television, showing him alive in person. Why would Tupac fake his own death? Yes, he had enemies, but I doubt he was afraid and he would be ready for them. It's not just Tupac. People, like I said, believe that the others are still alive. People have said Biggie, Elvis. Oh man, definitely Elvis. My goodness. Michael Jackson, John Lennon, you know. Some believe Prince is still alive. Yes, the one and only artist formerly known as Prince. I'm not surprised people thinking he's still living. I mean, it's Prince, for crying out loud. There's even loads of videos on YouTube just people stating that Prince and many others are still alive. What's next? Are people going to say Christina Grimmie is still alive? Don't get me wrong, I wish she still was here for sure. And there are a couple videos saying she's still alive as well. Christina's death felt like it was nothing but a dream, and still does. Why would Michael Jackson fake his own death? You really think Michael would purposely leave his kids behind for their grandmother to take care of them? If MJ was still alive, his kids would still be living with him, obviously, until they were old enough to move out of the house. Some people think Andy Kaufman, the man that was on the show Taxi with Danny DeVito and Tony Danza and others, some people think he's still alive. And he even said that he would like to fake his own death prior to his actual death, which leads his fans and other people thinking that he really did fake his death. And there were even people that waited 10 years later after his death in 1994 to see if he would come back. Unfortunately, he did not come back. As for Elvis, I think the reason why people think he's still living is because Elvis' middle name at first was spelled Aron, Aaron. But apparently his mother had it spelled Aron for his stillborn twin, Jesse Garon. But as Elvis got older and before his death, so people are probably thinking, well, looking at his gravestone, they're thinking, wait, I thought his middle name only had one A, not two A's. That's probably for those people who probably didn't know. And I think another reason is due to the fact that I guess somebody took a photo of Elvis in his coffin at his funeral. And you'll see Elvis in a coffin, but he's like skinny. He looks similar to what he was back in the 50s and 60s. Now, in his later years, Elvis pretty much was bloated. His cheeks were bloated. He was bloated around his body. Pretty much all the drugs he was taking. And he was also eating unhealthy foods. He pretty much had an unhealthy diet in his later years as well. So, my thing is, why is Elvis skinny in his coffin, but he was all bloated by the time he died? That doesn't make any sense. Did they like use something to shrink down all the bloatiness in his cheeks and his body for him to look like what he was back in the 50s and 60s? Is that what they did? Is that even possible? And I know it's hot in Memphis. It's got to be because it's Memphis, Tennessee. But how can somebody that passed away just all of a sudden start to sweat after death and then get back to being skinny? Like, how is that possible? Heck, some people think if Elvis was alive right now, he would have died by now. Because Elvis would have been like 81 right now if he was still living. Or who's to say? Maybe he would have lived until his 90s or up to his 100s. I mean, some people unfortunately don't make it to their 80s or 90s or 100s. But who's to say? Listen, I get why people think that they're still alive. And it's perfectly fine that you can't accept that, that they're gone too soon. It's understandable. I mean, I'd rather people pretend that they're still alive and imagining what they would be doing right now if their deaths didn't get in the way. But for anybody to just believe what the rumors, what the media has to say, and actually thinking they fake their deaths to get away from the spotlight, I think that's a bit too much. So, do you think Tupac and others are still alive? Do you think they fake their deaths to get away from the spotlight? Do you believe all the rumors and what the media says?